let's start with another unit in our history book. That is Unit 10, Traders, Kings and Pilgrims. Now in this chapter, we will be dealing about and knowing about more about traders, how you come to know that India used to do trade with not only in India, but also different parts of the world. We'll be knowing more about pilgrim towns and important centers and about the different kings who ruled at the middle century. So let's start with the chapter. So how to find about trade and traders, the very first topic, and how we will find about trade and traders. Now in early times, we all know that India used to do trade not only in India, inland, but also outside the world, outside India. That means in other parts of the world, that is Europe, Rome, China, Afghanistan, then in the southern India, Sri Lanka, and many other parts, Africa, all the other parts of the world. So, how we come to know that they used to do trade with them? There are evidence that they have found. The archaeologists have found evidence that they tell us. From those evidence, we come to know that they used to do trade. And what are these evidences? The basic evidence is they found those things that will tell us that they used to do trade with the other countries, that are coins, pottery. Now basically at that time there was NPPW, that is the Northern Polished Blackware pottery, that they found in India and other part India, so that the other parts of the world, so they know that they used to do trade with these things. That means trading, they used to trade Northern Black Polished Ware, NPPW potteries. Then they found coins of Europe, of Rome. So we know that people from the European countries used to do trade with India, and we have found certain coins that belonged to India in their places. So that is another evidence that we used to do trade with them. Now what all we used to trade? Now India was famous for spices. Now spices being one of the major production in the southern India, and one of the spices like the black pepper, known as the black gold, also was in demand everywhere. So they used to do trade in spices, and from there they used to do trade with perfumes, semi-precious stones, and different kinds of potteries also. So exchange of things used to take place because we have found things of European countries in India and in India, and their coins also. So we know that they used to do trade with India, and India used to do trade with them also. So these are the things that tell us that we used to do trade. The trade and the traders used to move not only in India, but different parts of the Indian subcontinent. Different parts of Asia. Now, how they used to travel? Now, the basic, or the two coast we have, that is the Arabian and the Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean. So from these they used to travel by ship. Then they used to walk. When they used to walk on horses, and even carts and caravans. So these were the mode of transport for the trade, carrying the trade and the traders. The next is that the traders, they explore many sea routes on the way. So when they used to travel on the way, they explored many trade routes. And basically when they are traveling on water, at that time there were no motorboats or no machinery was used, no big ships were there. So they used to wait for the monsoon or the wind direction so that they could sail on that particular direction. So basically when they wanted to sail to East African area, they used to wait for the southwest monsoon, and then they used to travel because of the wind direction. Now new kingdoms along the coast. Now what are the different new kingdoms that they found along the coast? Now, half of the Indian subcontinent marked along the coastline. Yes, most of the part of India is belonging to the coastline, the north and the east and the west. So hills, plateaus, and river valleys. Among them, the rivers. The chief was the Kaveri Delta at that time was the most powerful, the most fertile delta. And chiefs and kings controlled, like the northern. When we talk about the northern plains were the most prominent place that the most of the kings you wanted to control, the northern part of India. And when we talk about the southern, the Kaveri River was very important. So all the other kings wanted to capture that fertile area of the Kaveri River. So so that they could control and become rich and powerful. Another thing was very important at that time, that they wanted to control the coastlines. And why the kings wanted to control the coastlines? Because there were a lot of foreign invaders and the foreign merchants and traders who used to come by ship. And if they control the coastline, they had to pay certain amount of taxes to move, to go from there to the other parts. So in that way, if they control the coastline, they will become more powerful and rich. So in the Sangam poem, in the Sangam literature, and the Sangam poem mention about the Movendar. Okay, it is a very important term as Movendar. Okay, Muvendar, Movendar. Okay, this is a Tamil word meaning three chiefs. The three important chiefs that controlled that ruled the north, so the southern India. Okay, they were the Chera, Cholas, and the Pandyas. They were the three ruling families and their sisters who controlled the southern part of India. And they together, the three chiefs together, were known as the Movendar, the Chera, Cholas, and the Pandyas. Each of the three. So when we studied about the three chiefs of the southern India, Chera, Cholas, and Pandyas, together known as the Movendars, they had control over the southern India, the ports of southern India. So they had control over one inland and one coastal area, so that they could gain, means they could run the empire with the tax that were collected from it. So they had the different important ports at Tamil Nadu, or the important ports at Madurai, all the one under the control of the Movendars. Now, they collected regular taxes. Instead, they demanded gifts. That means the one who used to come from the waterways, or the one who used to, the foreign invaders who used to come, they would bring a lot of gifts for them. So instead, they demanded and received gifts from the people. They went on military expeditions and kept wealth and kept some part of the wealth and distributed rest of it. They distributed among the soldiers and among the poets, among the different members in their family. They even, the most poets who composition were found in the Sangam. They were also rewarded with a lot of gold, silver coins, precious and semi-precious stones. So they were all given as gifts. Now around 200 years later in the dynasty, as the Satvahana became very powerful, and the ruler of it was Gautami Putra Satkarni. So this was, he was one of the important ruler of the Satvahanas, named as Gautami Putra Satkarni. Okay, so his and we know about him as an inscription composed on the behalf of his mother, Gautami Palashri. So he had other Satvahana rulers, and they were the lords of the Dakshin Pat. Now, what is the Dakshin Pat? It is a pathway to the south, known as Dakshin Path. So the entire region was named, literally the route leading to the south, which was used as a name to the entire southern region known as Dakshin Path. Now next comes the story of the Silk Route. Now this is a very important route. It runs to China. Okay, and that route is important as India used to do trade with China from that particular route. Now, why this route was so important? Because it was a route, it was that leads to China, and people from China could do trade with India, and the people of India could do trade with China, and all the places that were on the way. Now, as this route was very important, so there were a lot of people who wanted to capture the route or take control over the route so that they could earn a lot of money. And whenever a person used to pass, or whenever if they kept a control over that route, whoever passes from the route, they have to pay taxes. And even it was a lot of thieves and robbers used to be on this route, because people who used to go from this route carried important items like silk, semi-precious stones, muslin cloth, spices, and all so on. So the rich glossy color of silk as well as the smooth texture might have highly valuable fabric in the most society. Yes, because the silk was worn by high class people. The robes, the dresses of the kings, the queens, and their family members, they were all made up of silk, and silk was to be called as a royal cloth. Now, how is silk extracted? You all know that there is a sericulture is done, where that is the process of extracting silk from this silkworm. So making of silk was very complicated and process. Raw silk has to be extracted from the cocoon of the silkworm, and then they had to be spun into the thread and then woven into a cloth. So it was a very intricate process, a very difficult process, and it had started in China. So the technique of making silk were firstly invented in China in around 7,000 years ago, and while the methods remain closely it was a very secretive method that was kept from the world for a long period of time. Only the Chinese people know how to make silk. So as the method of making silk was kept secretly guarded for a long period of time. So when these Chinese traders, when they carry silk with them in the form of clothes or raw silk and on their horseback, and they take to distant land, when they travel from that route named as Silk Route, that route was called as Silk Route. So Chinese used to give these silk that was very expensive and very beautiful looking cloth as gifts to many rulers also. So about 2000 years ago, wearing silk became a fashion amongst rulers and rich people. Yes, now also today, in today's time also, silk is considered to be a very expensive material. You wear silk usually when there is a festival or when there is an occasion, and it is very expensive. So at that time also, it was a very expensive and very secretly guarded method of making silk. So it was very expensive, and it had bought all the way from China along dangerous roads through mountains and deserts. People living along the route often demanded payments. Yes, I just told you that there used to be robbers, there used to be people who used to take control over that particular pathway, and they in turn, going from there, going and coming, they wanted payments, like as in taxes, to enter the route and to pass from that route. So the Silk Route, some kings tried to control over the Silk Route, and because they could benefit from the taxes. It was a very famous route, and they could benefit from it, from the taxes, and could become very prosperous. So this could be benefited, and in return they protected the traders from the other rulers who were there in the kingdom, and also from the attack of the robbers. Now the best known rulers who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas. Okay, now they ruled over around 200 years ago, and the two major powers were the Peshawar and Mathura. Taxila was also included in their kingdom. So the Kushanas have the Peshawar, Peshawar. Their two major centers of power were Peshawar and Mathura, and even they had control over the Taxila. During the rule, a branch of Silk Route extended from central down to the seaports to the mouth of the river Indus, and where silk was shipped westward to the Roman Empire. Yes, because it was a very you can say a very expensive and a very beautiful looking material. So not only it was confined to China or to India, from the Silk Route they took out another route from Taxila that could reach passing to the European Empire, to the Romans, and then they could even do trade in silk with the Roman Empire. From the mouth of the river Indus. Yes, Indus originated from there itself, from the Pakistan. So the Kushanas were among the earliest rulers of the subcontinent who issued gold coins, and they were used to traders along the Silk Route. So they issued gold coins and to trade with the people along the Silk Route.